But we have the luxury of having Madhulika discuss the four papers and push you in particular ways further, I would hope. Madhulika, over to you. So, it's here.
Okay, in fact, I would actually request you, Naveen, to also pitch in with comments, because I have to say that I'm really gobsmacked with all four presentations. I was somewhat familiar with some of the work, but not all. And I have to say that the reason we thought of this panel is precisely, I mean, everyone must be thinking that, I mean, this is not a panel actually, this is a round table, for this reason that there's such diverse work happening in what we broadly call STS. And these are all, different kinds of research with some core of technology that they are addressing, that they are using, that they are applying, and core social science question studies, that really the conversations between social sciences and those who are doing STS work need to be fostered. And this seemed to be an ideal space in which we bring the two together. We were going to have a captive audience of social scientists and those working in the humanities. And so this seemed like a very good occasion to present four completely different kinds of work to this audience, and to see how engagement with the social sciences does take place in the STS field, and also to seek responses, of course, as to how they, what kind of thoughts, what kind of lines of arguments are triggered when this kind of work is encountered by those who see themselves as regular, mainstream, maybe, kind of social science, and not necessarily mainstream, but using the foundational categories and conceptual frameworks of social science. Here I might quickly also just add my place in this whole thing is also completely dubious, and I think that it's very important to acknowledge it right at the beginning, because I was trained as a political scientist with no clue that there was all this work on technology, there was all this. We read very little philosophy of science when we were doing our masters. And so, but we encountered the Bhopal gas tragedy. As a master's student in 1984, I was still studying my master's when it happened. And it hit us like a ton of bricks, because we had no idea what was going on. And Richa, who has worked so much on the Green Revolution and agricultural practices vis-a-vis the Green Revolution, you should know that when it was really, I mean, we knew a little bit about alternatives to, dominant agricultural practices. We knew that there was something wrong with the Green Revolution in the mid-80s, because we were listening to Vandana Shiva as well. She's not part of the curriculum anywhere, but we were listening to her. When Bhopal happened, that's when we all started to see the linkages. So for us, a lot of linkages with technology, what happens, and so on and so forth. I think that I feel a bit like a dinosaur here, because most of the younger people here, their reference points of technology are very different from what we were beginning with. But for us, precisely, the what you're talking about today, I was thinking of Bhopal. The fact that the encounter with a revolutionary product was something that just killed people. The breathing in of methyl isocyanate gas, which was supposed to be one of the markers of a pesticide which was meant to increase productivity, etc. You see, so that's one trajectory. But when the poor encounter it unleashed into the atmosphere, then it is nothing but death. So our point of entry into understanding the relationship between, at least my point of entry, between technology and society was this horror of, a lack of regulation on technology. But then very, very quickly we went from there to understanding why, it was so important to understand what Naveen talked about yesterday, that technology is something that needs to be understood as a network of social relations. And Feinberg and others were still people that were not easily, Langdon Winner, someone talked about in the morning, not so easily accessible at that point in time. So for us to string together the meaning of all these things was difficult. But for me, so therefore, an engagement with what seemed clearly a very important question, which was the question of what technology was considered the perfect one for the development paradigm. That technology, when it went awry, and we could see that the development paradigm needed questioning and needed alternatives, could that technological frame also provide alternatives? That was the kind of questions that we began with. But I'm not here to talk about my work, but I wanted to place myself here because this is an amorphous area for us. And I think that's a very good thing. In India, there is no defined STS. We do not have a defined STS, we don't have defined STS programs, so it's not become a discipline by itself. And so, as Richa clearly said, that it is something that is self-consciously transdisciplinary. And that's what comes out in each of the presentations this afternoon, each one of them really exciting and fascinating. Thank you so much for them. What I find interesting is how each of the presentations is so engaged with understanding the technology in its own frame, while clearly articulating what could possibly be the critical frame with which you could understand and explain it. That, methodologically too, I think it's a very important trait that sets apart a lot of STS work. And the fact that you need to engage with the technique for what it stands for, what its grammar is, what its language is, in order to be able to posit an effective critique is a very difficult task, especially because those of us who are seeking to study technology are not necessarily trained in it. So unlike Vidya, who came from a background and she was privileged, but the rest of us, I don't think we were. So I know. But what I'm trying to say is that that defines a methodology in itself, and that's something that's very, very interesting. And so, therefore, even I found Vasundhara's intent to link this very catchy formulation, the havalat, to understanding the technique of mediating with air, and the fact that she calls it our relationship with air, both methodologically as well as analytically, very, very fascinating. And how she uses the understanding of viscosity, which is I would have never imagined that it could possibly be used to understand our relationship with air. I was thinking, because I work with Indian knowledge systems, and there are many people here who do, where air or space is one of the defining elements of the universe, and that plays a very significant role in how we understand air. It plays a significant role in the way in which we understand bodies and the way in which we understand, because the body is also made up, one of the 5 elements is air. So how do these things Is there a possibility of bringing these kinds of grammars together to talk to? And that's the kind of question Manindra and many other people are talking about. And that's what makes it fascinating. And I think that there's a conversation here that is possible. Vidya's fun and completely racy, amazing understanding of IPL, because I personally also, like I'm sure many of us, really enjoy. And here again, the dinosaur speaks. So we've seen that transition. I remember the first Kerry Packer matches, and the elders in the family all bemoaning the fact that this is the destruction of cricket and so on, and how that has become. And we've slowly watched how it's become entertainment. But crucially, I mean, I certainly am going to read that book of yours, because how the technology of the media completely transforms the way in which the game is positioned on the field. That is, I think, the backbone of your argument, which is what makes it so interesting. But you're possibly one of the only those who were presenting today that even pointed to the link with finance, with high finance. That's very, very crucial, and something that we need to talk about, because you could not possibly bring what works for broadcasting and how broadcasting sees the future of a game in terms of the marketability of its entertainment form, which without a very important role of high finance. And I think that you cannot be talking about relationship between technology and society without advanced capitalism and how it works. And so I like that reference there. Though of course I'd love to hear more about that. Richa, I was quite stunned by this. I know your other work, but this is your new line of thought, and I was very excited to hear this. You said so many different things, which I know that you're sort of trying to build into a comprehensive argument, and that was fascinating. What I take away from this is actually a genuine. Genuine is a very essentialist term. It's a very difficult, actually, bringing together of the character of a chemical, which we see as an intervention, as a technical intervention, which we always see as something outside of us and not part of us, into this framework of understanding our relationship with agency, and the fact that the chemical is a product of a human intervention is one of the hallmarks of the Anthropocene, and that agency is somehow, it's really something that I'll have to think more about to understand exactly how you're bringing the ideas of agency in both between the chemical and the human together. Maybe some questions will come up on that. Gayatri's presentation on the platform economy, I think what I found fascinating is that you were bringing what you yourself call very standard traditional sociological concepts to understand what the platform economy is about, and the relationship between what looks like an algorithm and collective action and mobilization. For a political scientist, this is a fascinating area to understand, and it gives us a sense of agency despite an algorithm. There's so much breast beating about how algorithms are taking over our ability to negotiate with it, and how overwhelming they are. And indeed, many algorithms are very overwhelming. But this opens up a possibility of looking at how notions of mobilization, notions of contestation, this is about technology, society, hierarchies, and contestations. Here we are looking at very interesting possibilities of contestation that you are picking up from the field, and I find that particularly interesting and exciting. And I really hope that this is work that we see more of, and we'll get to understand some of these interventions and notions of agency better. So that's basically what I would like to say by way of responding. And I think it might be interesting if Naveen would like to add a few things, or should we take questions?
Yeah, maybe
we should just stick to questions. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, wow.